What is up, guys, and welcome back to another F1 2020 video. Let's cut the crap and let's get right into it. We've been driving a lot of faster cars, specifically the Ferrari. We are not allowed to drive the Mercedes at this stage and show it to you guys, of course. And I've been racing a lot of the upper midfield cars. So today I've been dying to try out the Williams and some of the lower end cars on F1 2020 and just find out which car is the slowest. We're pretty sure it's going to be the Williams, but by how much? That is the question. So we're going to take this car to the Hungarian Grand Prix, a track which we haven't tried just yet, and we're going to see what this car can, but more specifically, what it can't do. And I think this might be a pretty harsh test for the Williams, given that downforce does seem to be its kryptonite. Hungary is a track which requires a lot of downforce in order for it to be competitive. So let's see how it goes. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to see plenty more F1 2020 videos. I've still got a lot of ideas up my sleeve, and I haven't even delved into your ideas just yet. But yeah, let's dive into this. Let's just have a look at what the time trial times are so far. I contrast with a 114.1 on his trusty old controller. Game right P2 with a 16.9. So I don't know where the Williams is going to fare in that. I would love to be like, I don't know, top 5 or something, but we just don't know. So let's find out, shall we? I'm on the wheel again today, so thankfully that is not an issue, but away we go for our very first lap in the Williams. On average, it seems like the 2020 cars are a little bit faster than last year, around about a second or so. So let's see what kind of difference the Williams has. From experience, when I was driving this, Williams didn't feel too bad, to be honest. It felt like it was... Well, it definitely helped that this was the first car that I drove today, but it didn't feel like an absolute dog of a car like the Williams does on 2019. You really feel the lack of downforce in that car. You can still feel it in this one, but it didn't feel like I was driving a tractor per se. So there's that. But yeah, this first lap is just a bit of a sighter. You can see I'm not pushing the limits by any stretch of the imagination, but you can still see that there's a lot of understeer in this car. Jesus, my lines and just cornering is just not great on this lap, is it? But we do improve massively over the course of the next 10 laps or so. So what we're going to do is we're driving this car, we're driving the Haas, we're driving the Racing Point, the AlphaTauri, all these cars which we actually haven't driven yet. Haven't driven the Racing Point, but yeah, we'll compare after we do this car. And this, in the Williams, this was the car that I probably put the most time into. I just wanted to get a perfect lap in this car just to see what the baseline is and then kind of go from there. Second lap here, you can see we've improved by 5.5 tenths. We dip into the 18s there with an 18.4. We're now in the 17s, and we're really starting to get towards the limit of what this car can do. This is, again, going to be a faster lap. You can see we're hitting apexes a lot better now, getting a feel of what this car can actually do. And to be honest, it doesn't feel too bad. We're on the default setup, by the way, so we could definitely go faster, but I just want to run the same setup across all cars just to get a baseline. 17.6 this time, and that is really starting to get to where we need to be, really attacking the higher speed corners. I think that's probably where I can gain the most time, to be honest. As on previous laps, I was still getting a bit of understeer, not quite maximizing things. This time, getting a really nice run through the chicane in the middle sector, and that was all the difference. 17.0, and that was a really good lap. It puts me second on the leaderboard in a Williams. But as we actually check the leaderboard, we're third. Just behind Game Right in the Mercedes. I think Game Right's career might be over, but we're going to go again. We want to get second on the leaderboard and dip into the 16s. That would be a time I'd be absolutely ecstatic about. I was actually fist pumping when I set that 17.0 last time out. But we can go faster. If we nail the lap, we can do a 16. So let's do this. Opening the DRS. We've actually moved the brake bias to 52% just to help the rotation a little bit at lower speed. And that should hopefully make a difference. A tenth up as we go through the first 2 corners. So if we can hold on to this, we're there. But we can still definitely improve throughout the rest of the lap. Through the fast left-hander, I actually didn't take as much curb as what I probably should have there. And I've actually lost a little bit of time. So despite this being my fastest lap, I could still actually go faster again. But, yeah, it's very interesting. Again, I really attacked that chicane in the middle sector. We definitely made up a lot of time there. Now 2/10 up as we go through the Achilles heel part of the circuit for the Williams. But, you know, the car's feeling pretty good. Like, I really hooked up this lap, apart from the fast left-hander at the end of the first sector. 2.5 up now as we approach the final couple of corners, and now my mentality is really just to hold on as we're 3/10 up. It's looking absolutely beautiful there. I probably should have held on to a little bit more time. You can see I've actually lost quite a bit there, but we gained it all back on the exit of the final corner, and it is a 1:16.860, and that puts me second on the all-time time trial leaderboards. Absolutely ridiculous. Of course, yes, it doesn't mean much given that, you know, the public hasn't tried the game yet. But there is, you know, a lot of media people here who have played the games over the course of the last few years, so they should be decent. But, you know, second in the Williams, wow. If only eye contrast didn't do this track, we could have been on target for greatness. Anyway, I hope George Russell is proud of that lap. I certainly was. Could probably find another 10th or so with default setup, and then I literally think we're on the limit. But we are now going to jump in the other cars. So next slowest, at least according, well, I'm just going by the time trial selection cars. Apparently it might be the Haas. So we're going in the Haas next. And in this one, I didn't do as many laps as what I did in the Williams. I don't think I could realistically do about 10 laps for each car. But what I did for each car was I did a lap to the point where I thought it was pretty good, like a 8 or a 9 out of 10. I'd say the Williams lap was a 9.5 out of 10, with the exception of that one corner where we just went through and didn't nail it as much as what I should have. But regardless, these are all going to be pretty darn representative times anyway. So far, we're a 10th up. Again, attacking that chicane, maybe a little bit more than what I did in the Williams. So it seems like that's one corner you could possibly exploit a little bit in time trial. But others, you know, there are other corners in time trial where you really just can't push the limits at all. But others, you can take the mick quite a bit. So, I mean, it's not the full game, so fair enough. But the Haas did seem to have a bit more straight line speed was probably the same. What I was going to say, it had a bit more downforce than the Williams, and it really shows. 2/10 up on my second lap, and yeah, this was a pretty decent lap. Could probably go slightly faster, but the same could be said for all of the laps that I do, even in the Williams. But there we go, 16.2. A good 6/10 faster than the Williams. I'll have a leaderboard that I display at the end of the video, which you guys can see, and we'll compare times there. Arav in the McLaren doing a 19.5. What's going on there? Anyway, we move on to the Alfa Romeo, speaking of Arav, and this car was actually a really big surprise. This car was really fast, and I wasn't expecting it. So you can see straight away we've done a 16.1. That was my first lap, and now this second lap here, we go even faster. This Alfa Romeo has probably the best downforce out of all the cars I try in this video, which is really surprising, because in testing, I thought this car was a bit average, to be honest. But, you know, you never know. I'm really excited to see what happens with the 2020 grid once we actually go racing in real life. You just never know, like, how much people were holding back and what kind of package they were going to bring to Melbourne, and you know, how far the cars have come along in the downtime since the season should have started. I'm really keen to see it. But yeah, we make up the majority of the time through this middle part of the lap. You can see we're 2.5 cents up through here. The car was an absolute dream to drive compared to the Williams. And yeah, this is a really underrated car. Potentially one you should pick in career mode, because it seems to be very, very good for its class, or where it kind of sits in the order. We come out of the final corner and we pick up a little bit more time. It's a 2/10 gain, 1:15.916. So the first car that we've driven today that breaks into the 15 barrier. Like I said, eye contrast in Mercedes has done a 14.1. But speaking of Mercedes, we jump into the 2019 Mercedes, the Racing Point, and this car was quite low down in the selection screen, and I actually was rating this car to be a lot better than what it was. I actually had to do a lot of laps to get a good lap out of this, which was really surprising because in testing, the Racing Point, I don't know, looked like it could get podiums this year. It was, you know, up there challenging the likes of Ferrari and stuff, Red Bull potentially, I don't know, but of course, you know, we know that the other teams were sandbagging a little bit, but we kind of got the feeling that the Racing Point was going to be an amazing car this year. And it's really not represented in the same way in the game. So, yeah, here's the best lap. You can see we're down a little bit on the Alfa Romeo. I mean, I would have thought for sure that the Racing Point would have been better than the Alfa Romeo. Come on. But I really had to push it. The Racing Point was just lacking a lot in downforce. It was just understeery, really. It was understeery and stable. That's what I said in my other video. There's not much to say about the Racing Point. It's a decent little car, but it doesn't seem to be overly fast, if that makes sense. Okay, in a straight line. But yeah, at a track like this, I guess it's not really suited too well to the corners. Out of the final corner, we lose a bit more time, and it's a 2/10 loss, pretty much. And it is a 16.093. We now move on to the AlphaTauri, and I believe this is the final car in the video. And this actually was a decent car. The AlphaTauri had really nice balance, especially jumping out of the Racing Point and jumping into this car. I noticed that there was so much more bite in the front end. This might be a handy little car as well to try in career mode, but the lap time isn't quite here with this car. It seems to lose a bit of time in a straight line. This actually might be the slowest car in a straight line out of any of the 2020 cars. That's something we'll have to test in a future video. So if that's something you want to see, let me know. I'll do like a straight line speed comparison, or I might even complete the whole grid here at Hungary and race in the front running cars and do an overall comparison if that's something you guys want to see. But yeah, in the corners we make up a bit of time. It's hard to say if this car is better than the Alfa Romeo in the corners. It's very much nip and tuck, but the Alfa Romeo did seem to be the better overall car compared to the AlphaTauri. But doing my best here. You can see we are within touching distance, maybe a little bit more time, and I probably could have got the time out. But to be fair to the Alfa Romeo, I did do the time that I did in 2 laps. So I think the Alfa Romeo is the better car. But we come through the final corner, again trying to make up as much time as we possibly can, and we do recover a bit, but not enough. It is 600ths shy of the Alfa Romeo, and that is all of the lower midfield and back marker cars covered on F1 2020. Here's the overall leaderboard. Alfa Romeo being the fastest of the slower cars, if you will, with a 15.9. The Williams is 9/10 shy of that. So it looks like, again, Williams is going to be the slowest car in F1 2020, and by some margin. 6/10 is the difference. Like with all of these times, I guess, I could have gone faster. Maybe not the Racing Point. I really did push the Racing Point to its limit, and that was a very underwhelming car. But by all accounts, the Williams is the slowest car by 6/10. Haas I could have gone faster in. Williams I could have gone slightly faster in as well, but that is the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. It's still not 100% concrete which is the fastest car in F1 2020. The Ferrari is an absolute beast at some tracks, and the Mercedes, oddly enough, doesn't feel as nice sometimes. It feels like it has a bit of understeer and maybe not the same straight line speed, but it still seems to be fast as well at the same time. It's very weird. So I will test that at possibly this track and maybe others as well if that's something you guys want to see. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. I'm keen to see what the baseline my team car is going to be at the start of that career mode and how it compares to the Williams. I really hope that it's slower than the Williams to make it a true Road to Glory career mode series. But anyway, at this point I'm rambling. I've got to go, and yeah, join me for more content to come in the days to come. Whatever. Goodbye. Thank you. Laters. Cheers.